Thank you so much for being with me today, Merritt. It is such a pleasure to meet you.
You for having me.
I'm very excited that you're nominated for an Emmy this year because a couple years ago I predicted you be nominated for both Unbelievable and Run, and then neither
Uh-oh.
of them happened. And to be
No.
nominated this year alongside Caitlin Dever is like great
I know.
belated
It's like a
Emmy
lovely,
justice.
I know. Well, I wouldn't say justice. Justice for her. Because that girl at a very, very young age put that whole show on her back. And I don't think any of the show would have worked if we hadn't had her. I mean, I'm not supposed I could spend my whole time talking about Unbelievable and Caitlin Dever, but if we hadn't had her and her kind of phenomenal embodiment of that character, especially set up in the first episode, nothing that came after would have mattered. So it has been really wonderful and exciting to watch her wonderful work over the last few years. Yeah.
Unbelievable was certainly a very serious project, but I feel like your character there had some levity to her, which I feel like while Severance often has that, your character is much more straightforward, dramatic. That's how I see it. Do you agree with that?
She doesn't have a ton of levity, it's true. There are little moments here and there. I think, and I remember there's some lines that got cut, but it's true that it's not like a bucket of chuckles. You're correct. You're correct. But Zach has some beautiful, even in our scenes, the series as a whole, and especially in season one. But even in our scenes, Zach has these really lovely little golden, nugget moments where he drops in almost like a heartbreaking, tender, um, something funny, because he plays the newness of his character so well.
What is it like jumping aboard this show, but also in just sort of like only with that one storyline?
I know. I mean, there's lots of ways to answer this question, but I think in some ways the experience of going to work and just being in this little room with one other person playing out these disorienting, what the fuck kind of scenes and scenarios, but having a sense that out there on the soundstage and the people you pass in the hair and makeup trailer, like something much bigger and crazier and more mysterious is happening, echoed like the character's experience. You know what I mean? Like there was a bit of a parallel between me coming in every once in a while and kind of being able to smell this bigger other thing happening behind closed doors, and then Gretchen coming in to this weird room, and trying to understand the rules of the world.
Did the role come about for you?
The job.
Mhm.
I was very lucky. I got a text saying, you should expect a text from Ben Stiller, um, about Severance, which is, I'm not going to complain. That's a very lucky text to get. And so we just spoke, and he said that there was a new part on the show, that they were interested in having me come in and do. And I remember being very honest with him and asking for a sense of, where my character was going to go. Like I didn't want him to fill in the emotional or psychological lines, but I just kind of wanted a sense of like, what are you asking me to come in and do? Uh, and in retrospect, it was very generous of them to kind of write up a little document about what to expect, um, because they are so, uh, because I know they take keeping a secret, you know, or keeping the kind of, what's going to happen in the season, to themselves for the audience's benefit. So that was very generous of them to share that with me.
It's really such a complex love story because it's two people who are not the same, but sort of are the same. And the unusual thing, about your character is that she exists in both places in the same way. And she's not, unlike somebody like Cobell, she's not trying to deceive others about what she does or doesn't know.
Yeah, I know. I always see she's the same person. I think that in a weird way, she gets to do a bit of like emotional time travel in getting to experience what it felt like to meet her husband in the beginning. I mean, I think that the creators of the show and certainly Zach has the ultimate authority over how they feel, but I always felt like she was getting to re-experience her husband in the way that he was when she first met him and getting to experience her husband experiencing her and meeting her and appreciating her the way that he did when they first met. So I always felt like it wasn't that she was falling in love with a new person. It was that she was getting the gift of getting to fall back in love with the person she first fell in love with and getting to see the person she first fell in love with fall in love with her for the first time too. And that's incredibly intoxicating and incredibly enticing. And I think she's probably so starved for it that she does not play the tape forward about the consequences, let alone the logistics, let alone the fact that she's probably harming this person that is now going to exist with the consequences of a breakup downstairs, you know.
I feel like the more dramatic love story of this season is, the Mark, Ellie, Gemma thing. But this, like, because there's no running and closing doors and anything like that, because it's not as dramatic, it's almost a lot more painful because it doesn't have that same kind of intensity to it. It just sort of happens and then now everybody's stuck.
It's a smaller but no less excruciating or emotionally grand heartbreak. And I think the writers had their work cut out for them because they had a lot of different character arcs and storylines having to do with like reconciling Annie and Outie and love relationships. And how do you have, John Turturro and Christopher Walken and Adam Scott and Britt Lauer and me and Zach in the same episode navigating similar themes, but in different ways that are still going to be interesting to the audience. How do we make it so that it doesn't feel like they're watching the same story told three times with three pairs of people? So I was glad that that's not my job to figure out how to do it. My job is something different. Yeah.
I feel like the easiest solution is she gets severed also, but the Audi part becomes the Innie and the Innie part becomes the Audi. So like the new person has the chance to get, but I'm confusing even myself saying this, right?
Oh, I
It's not
get what
possible.
you're saying. No, I caught up. It took me a second and then I caught up. Again, so glad that's not my job. So glad that's not my job. While I do wish that I could do my job not on camera, like not while not being looked at. I wish sometimes that I could do my job in private, and I envy like painters and writers. I know that they would roll their eyes at me saying that, and they'd be like, "No less hard, babe. No less difficult."
Not that it makes sense, but is there a character you would really like to be able to interact with on the show if you could?
Oh,
And all the actors are great, but like who's the character that you'd like to be with if you could?
that's a great. They're all so unique. I think I would I think, as most actors on this show might say, I would be curious to see how she presented when she herself was an innie and then got to interact with, Irving, that gorgeous Irving as an innie. There's something where all of the innies get boiled down to like their most core essence, almost childlike, because there's ways that they are less developed. They've just had less time to develop coping mechanisms or defense mechanisms. And so I think I would be curious to find out what the smallest, most natural first ring of the tree of Gretchen is. I don't think that's going to happen. Not asking for it, not saying it. I'm just That's where my mind went. It's almost like a strange, I mean, so much of what they ask of the actors on this show is like a really wild uh like acting class exercise. I mean, they really put them through like a gymnastics course of given circumstances, is what I'd say.
We also had a recent guest spot on The Gilded Age, which is, next season's Emmys. These are two of the most popular shows on TV right now, but they're so different. How do these fan bases compare in your experience?
I'm new-ish to being in something that people actually watch. So I was and I feel very lucky because I those are two shows that are incredibly beloved by the people that watch them. And you can work really hard on something, but people may not see it or people may not respond to it. Um, but I told somebody when they asked me, "Oh God, what's it like being on Severance and having it come out right now? What's that like for you?" And I realized it was like when you're a kid and you go over to a friend's house for dinner for the first time and they serve you dessert and you realize that this is just how your friend lives all the time, like every night he or she they eat their dinner, they eat their broccoli, and then somebody brings them dessert on top of that. That's what it felt like. Like I'm used to going and eating my dinner and eating my broccoli and rolling up my sleeves and doing the job. But then to have it come out a year later and get dessert is what it feels like. And I'm like looking at other people like, you guys just live like this all the time? That's nice. You've got great parents.
I don't really have a question, but just want to note that I really enjoyed your episode of Roar. Speaking of things I think that people didn't watch, but that are criminally underappreciated.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Probably not as wide seen as Severance or Gilded Age, but again, like an opportunity to go in and do something, frankly, a little weird and different. And God bless Apple again for letting us do something like that, where you're telling a fable and talking to a duck. And again, those are just the given circumstances. And it's nice to be given circumstances that are different because when you do this long enough, you start to yearn for something that you haven't done because you start to get kind of the parts of you that people seem to keep wanting you to use can start to get stale and you can have no more water in that well. So, yeah, yeah. But thank you for bringing it up.
And we are almost out of time, but before I let you go, what are you watching right now? What have you seen recently that you're really appreciating and loving?
God, I'm terrible with this because I'm really bad with this. All answers fly out of my mind whenever I'm asked stuff like this, and I would have to grab my phone and look at my list because I have a list of things I want to see, and then because I'm slightly neurotic, I like to go and put a check next to the things that I have seen. But I can't think of it right now. I'm so sorry.
Well, I so appreciate the chance to talk to you. I'm excited that you are avoiding, stale repeat roles and just trying for some really new, cool things and wish you lots of success with that in the future.
So much, and thanks for your time today.